Hey, hoopballers, are you into sports betting? Do you want to know why a certain game has a funky line? Well, Hoopball has you covered. Today in Sports Betting is a great addition to all your handicapping questions with hosts Ira Silver and Devin Ellington. We break down game lines and future bets on all sports and try to make some money along the way. Follow us on Twitter at Hoopball Gaming, at Ira Silver Magic, and at DALE007. And download Today in Sports Betting in the App Store, Google Play, and available on Spotify.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Good morning, Hoop Ballers, and welcome to another edition of Hoop Ball DFS Today. I'm your host, Santino Cacone, and I am joined by the ever-annoying Mike Apatria. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I see, and here I am getting a compliment lined up for you, coming in like, the third buffer brother with your intro. We're going to give you, a nice compliment how much I liked it and how I thought you had, a nice profession going forward. But, I take it all back.
But you did say it, so technically it's on the record. It's counted. And thank you. I appreciate the compliment. I'm not going to take back what I said, but here we are. And this is the Wednesday, September 9th edition. I didn't get into that. But yeah, how you doing, buddy? Besides me saying the ever-annoying Mike Apatria, besides that, yes, I'd had to say it again, just so the listeners know. Drive it home, drive the point home. The listeners know. How you doing today? And have you been lately? We haven't had a podcast in, I believe, I can't remember if we did have last week's podcast, and then they missed a couple games after that.
Yeah, man. I mean, doing well. Getting adjusted to the week. It feels like it's Monday because a lot of us, maybe not everybody had the yesterday off because of the holiday. So getting back into gears, but getting fired up. We're finally starting to get some, I never like to see injuries or anything like that. But, with Giannis out today, we kind of got to see some differentiations in lineups and some new guys, I guess we could actually play. And we might see the same tonight with some more injury news. So getting a little bit of a different lineup out there is always fun. Nice little bounce back. But and you know what? I got to hang out with my good buddy Santino Cacone over the weekend. So that's always worth mentioning. The ever annoying. I don't know if you guys heard of him, but he could bother some.
Yeah, and you know what else is bothering me? Your background noise, bud. I hear some doors, some creaking. You don't even own a dog, and I keep hearing a dog bark. I don't know what's going on.
Well, the dog is probably the neighbors. I can't
I'm
speak
just
for
joking.
He's there. He is there. He's a German Shepherd. He's been my alarm clock for the past 3-4 years. And then, the creaky doors is the wonderful girlfriend just getting home from work, walking into a nice podcast. Probably didn't see. I don't have one of those on-air lights outside of my door. And there's the dog. I chose maybe for the dog and for her, but
that's funny. All right. We are going to get into this 2-game slate. Before I do, I just want to let everybody know, remind them, good ones. Again, as usual, get into my bookie, guys. We have the promo code HoopBall, HOOPBALL. Enter that in. Your deposit's going to get matched 100%. And we are, tomorrow, the NFL season kicks off. And we are in the heart of the NBA playoffs. We're in the heart of the NHL playoffs. The MLB season is close to coming to the playoffs. We have golf, UFC, all this good stuff going on. Now is the perfect time to get into the betting action if you're a bettor. And I'm assuming if you're listening to a DFS podcast, you like to dabble a little bit in regular betting as well. So definitely check out my bookie. We've never had NBA, MLB, NFL that I can remember all going at the same time, just prime time like that. So definitely get into it and use that promo code HoopBall and get your first deposit matched. And don't look back, guys. With that said, let's get right into this first game. So the first game is the Raptors against the Celtics at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual, as I usually call out here. And we got a pretty good one on our hands, man. The injury report for this one is the Celtics have Gordon Hayward out, and then Javonte Green and Vincent Poirier. I probably butchered that name badly, but we'll keep going.
100%.
I definitely butchered that one. Green is out with right knee surgery. Hayward. Oh my God.
You're just now. This is why I love letting you host, man.
I'm in a vicious cycle already. It happened once, and then it just keeps happening. Once I mess up that first one, then they come. It's like it's the snowball effect. But I forgot where I was. Hayward's out with the ankle sprain, as we know, and VP, Vice President, I'm going to call him, is out for personal reasons. On the Raptors side, we have Ibaka questionable with a left ankle sprain. I think I know he went out early. I think he'll probably play for this one. They definitely need this game. McCaw and Brissett are both out as well. The spread for this one is the Raptors are underdogs. They're getting 3 points. They are plus 130 on the money line. The Celtics are negative 155, and the over-under is a lot lower than Game 2, but it's at 210. With all that said and all that butchering going, let's hit the quote-unquote away team for this one in the Raptors. Let's start with their big guys. This is what I've been doing this lately. Start with the top 3 guys, and then we'll work our way to who do you like in value. So let's start on Van Vliet, Lowry, and Siakam. Any interest in this, guys? And you're probably after you mention it, you're probably going to talk about it, but I'll say, who do you like more of the 2 guards as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's kind of where I've been targeting for the Raptors is their backcourt, Van Vliet and Lowry. And I'll continue to play these guys simply because, I think they're both priced appropriately. This game, if it stays close, it's going to have a lot to do with it. They, the blowout in the last one, they were able to limit them softly. These are 2 guys that have been playing, 40 minutes almost, nightly. Van Vliet, I think, was down at 34 in that last game, and Lowry wasn't, that too far ahead of him, played like 34 also. So, I'm going to go back to the well, because you look at the guys comparable on the other side of the ball, it's Kemba Walker, and I do prefer Lowry over Kemba Walker, and he's the guy I prefer more out of the 2 guards. So both very much in play. Lowry, I have a little bit ahead of Van Vliet.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat there. And I forgot to mention this series is now 3-2 Celtics. Celtics took the first 2. Raptors took the second 2. Celtics made a statement in that game 3. But yeah, for the Raptors, I know you jumped the gun and where you started talking about Kemba and the Celtics. But for the Raptors, Lowry is my favorite play on it. Just slightly ahead of Van Vliet, but I think those 2 are a lot better than Siakam in this matchup. Siakam just really hasn't played the Siakam that we've seen in the regular year. I'm not even going to call the bubble restart the year. This entire bubble, he hasn't been He hasn't been that great. He had a couple games over 40, but he's not been reliable. And I know they got blown out last game, so all the stats really are skewed and don't really matter. But yeah, he only took 9 shots. The game before that, he played 46 minutes when they won, took 23 shots, and he had 42.25. So if he's taking 23 shots and he's hitting pretty much a ceiling for him now at 42, there's not the upside for him. So I like the 2 guards, and I'm with you in Lowry, a little bit higher than Van Vliet and a little bit higher than Kemba, who would be in the middle of the 2.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. And you said exactly what I would say for Siakam. Just, if he's under that $8K price tag, I can really think about it. But he's still, priced more than Van Vliet on his own team. But I just prefer Van Vliet dollar for dollar. It's different positions, and maybe that's the reason you're looking at him. I think on FanDuel he's small forward eligible, so he's a little bit of a different story over there. But but in a nutshell, on DK, I probably won't be playing too much of him.
Yeah, and after those big 3 guys, who else do you like here? Is there anybody that you like for value? Do you like the OG, or do you like Ibaka, Powell, Gasol? Any of these guys around here that you're looking towards for some value?
Well, I'm definitely going to monitor that Serge Ibaka news because I know he said that he played it off like he should be fine, no big deal. But he's also seen in a walking boot today. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, Giannis showed up in a walking boot before the game. I know he sprained his ankle twice. That's a little different. But, in a walking boot's generally not a good sign. And if he could play, how effective is he going to be? How well is he going to move on that ankle? So, I do have some worries about Ibaka. He's probably a guy that I'm not going to play regardless. But if he happens to sit, I will take a nice nice long look at Marc Gasol at 4,400. I do not want to play Marc Gasol. He looks like he's terrible. He looks slow. Age is catching up with him, especially knowing this Boston team generally tries to play pretty fast with their guards. So I'm gonna proceed with caution, but it's hard to ignore him without Ibaka. We have to imagine he's gonna be locked into about 24 to 26 minutes without Ibaka in there. In that case, I think at 4,400, he's a rock solid value play. OG at 57, he's kind of getting priced up to the point where there's not a lot of value left in him. You really have to hope he hits that upside, and his upside game is that 12 and 10 game where he had 38.5 DK points. So yes, there's the upside in there, but the floor we've seen night in and night out could be that 22 to 24 points, and I don't want to pay 5,700 for that. So I'll probably be under the field on a guy like OG, and depending on the Ibaka news, over the field on Marc Gasol.
All right. And before I get into it, any interest in Powell, or if Ibaka doesn't play, does that make you do a double take on the Bobby Boucher for 3K?
I don't
rhyme too.
Yeah, you rhyme all the time. I think he'll obviously he'll probably get a little bit of burn. He played in that last one 12 minutes, so he'll definitely be on there for a value play at minimum salary. I'd probably just think that Gasol, being the veteran, is the guy that's going to see the more stable minutes. The way Powell usually gets played in these playoff matchups, he gets used, but he gets more run when they're chasing points. They know that bottom line that OG is the better defender at the position. And if they need the points, they'll play Powell. He's the better scorer. And basically OG will close out games if they're actually closer, if they need him defensively. So I don't know if I'll end up getting on Powell, but I could definitely see myself playing some Bobby Boucher as a minimum salary guy if Ibaka's not playing.
Yeah, and I don't really have much interest in Powell either in this one. If Ibaka doesn't play, I mean, Marc Gasol at 4,100 is definitely a play. Even if he sticks around his 26 minutes, but that means he should have the high end of a timeshare with him and Bobby Boucher, who I'm also would be taking a slight look at. I'm not going to actively go out of my way to play him, but at 3K, there's not many people, as I continue to say, when you only have 2 games and you're in the playoffs, that could see 15 to 25 minutes a game and could make an impact. And if he can get me to 20 points at 3K and I'm paying up elsewhere, that's not bad value for me that I would like at. Marc Gasol is not at 441 if Ibaka doesn't play. I think he creeps closer to 28 to 30 minutes, so I would be looking at him too. I kind of like OG. At 57, it's not a price tag that's totally scaring me away. I don't prefer him, but the people around there, I mean, he's not a bad price tag. There are a couple people that I prefer a little bit more than him, but if I'm stuck around there, I could give him a look to pivot off because, we'll get into it next game, but I like another small forward or a couple hundred less, but he's probably going to have more ownership.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing I'm in. I just think that, there's a few forwards in that next game that are very similarly priced that I have a little more interest in. But like you said, they'll probably have more ownership as well. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Let's flip on over. I just hear you're clicking. Click, click, click.
It's not the dog, at least. You gotta be
at least it's not. This guys out of fingers just smashing keyboards out here. But let's flip on over to the Celtics. I mentioned the Celtics injury report. They have Javonte Green, VP, and Hayward out. Who do you like on the Celtics team that has a 3-2 lead? Are you going to gravitate towards the 9,300 Tatum? I know Kemba Walker, you mentioned that you like Lowry more, and Kemba's 81, pretty much the same price. And Jaylen Brown, the other big guy in here, is 76. Where would you be looking at? I know you kind of told us a little bit about how you feel about Kemba, but where do you feel about the other two guys?
So, I pretty much already said my words on Kemba. I don't mind him, but I prefer the other guys over him on Toronto. Tatum, there is some interest in Tatum for me under the the circumstance or the caveat that Ibaka's ruled out. So the one thing for me that links Tatum to his big games is his ability to attack the rim. When he gets to the free throw line and takes double-digit free throw attempts, he's looking at those 50-plus DK point games, and that's the ones that we want to target him in. So if Ibaka's out, I don't mind looking at Tatum. If he's in, I'll probably keep my ownership down to just Jaylen Brown, maybe 1 or 2 shares or a couple shares of Marcus Smart, and that's it. And that's pretty much all I'm looking at for Boston.
Okay. I kind of like that too. I like the Tatum call and the reason you gave. He's been in more of attack mode now, and he can always get his shot and deep. So I like that one. And he has been a little hit or miss. I think he'd be more hit, especially if Ibaka doesn't play. Gasol is a pretty good defender in his own right, but he's also very old and he's moving a lot slower than normal. Jaylen Brown to me is always a guy that's pretty good. He pretty much his floor is pretty safe. I mean, it could get 24, but he's more of a consistent type of guy without the great ceiling that Tatum has. But I don't mind him at 76, especially in this matchup as well. I'm not really looking Marcus Smart. He's been pretty consistent as well, getting around high 20s, low 30s points. But I think there are a lot more point guards / shooting guards in this 2 games. I know there's only 2 games, but there's a lot of guards that I like outside of him. You mentioned those are the only 2 people you like. You don't have any interest in a Daniel Tice, especially if Gasol doesn't, or well, not Ibaka doesn't play, or Big Rob, who's been playing pretty decent. I mean, he's a guy I want to target, but Daniel Tice, if Ibaka doesn't play, I think it's a solid matchup advantage there.
He definitely gets a boost, and then it's just, it's another name to throw in the plethora of forwards that we're looking at, at that 5 to 5-7 range. So eventually we start to have to, eliminate some of these guys, and maybe not from your player pool entirely. But when you're making those single entry lineups and those, maybe 3 entry max lineups, does he make it in there over them? And that's the issue I run into. So I don't think he necessarily makes it in there over those guys, but he's definitely still in play for me. I'm not going to just completely rule him out. I didn't mention him. But in the overall aspect, I'll probably be underweight on him as well.
Yeah, he wouldn't be a guy that I'm actively targeting either, but he's for 54, it's not a bad value for him. He could still get 30, 35 points, especially if Ibaka doesn't play. I like him. For me, he gets a slight bit bump there because the athleticism that Ibaka brings, Gasol at his age does not bring that same.
Yeah. And before we just run away from this game, if you're going to chase that Brad Wanamaker game, it's under the caveat that you think this game's going to get out of hand. Again, like it did in that last one. So like I said, we saw some of those minutes get limited. We saw some bench guys play a little more than they normally would. And, Brad Wanamaker was one of those guys. So be careful chasing it.
Yeah. Well said. I wouldn't want to chase that. He did play pretty much 6-man minutes, and no one else played double digits besides those 6. But still, I wouldn't be actively targeting a second Wanamaker game like that. I don't want to make it.
I'm trying to think of a pun with Wanamaker. And
I don't want to make her in my lineup like that.
Yeah. See, that
was okay.
That was terrible, but
butchered.
It was better than what I had.
I should have just let you do it.
Let's go to the next game.
Yeah, let's go to the next game. That was a butcher. This game starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The injury report here. The Clippers don't have anybody on the injury report. They haven't had anybody lately. Maybe closer to game time we see something, but at the moment, nothing. And as far as the Nuggets, same 2 people are out, Will Barton, and I like this guy too, and it's just bad that I know I'm butchering his name because I do it. Vlatko Konkar. Actually, I think I did pretty well on that one. Vlatko Konkar is out as well. He's not in the rotation, so it doesn't really matter, but Will Barton was. The spread on this one is +8 for the Nuggets. They are a big underdog in this one, even though they were pretty much leading most of game 3. They did blow it in the end, but I squeaked there. But they were winning most of it. They are a +300 on the money line. The Clippers are a -370 on the money line, and the over/under is a full 220.5 at 10.5 points higher than the first game. So Vegas is saying target this game because a lot of scoring, and it has been. It's been a much higher scoring game or series than the first game or first series. But let's get into it. We'll start with the Clippers because they're quote unquote the away team in here. And we'll start with their 2 big guys because everybody else is similarly priced lower. But let's start. Who do you have in your lineup with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George? Kawhi Leonard is the highest guy on the slate by a couple hundred. Do you have any interest in him? And do you like a Paul George who's pretty similarly priced to Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker, Siakam, those types of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I always have interest in Kawhi Leonard, especially on a 2-game slate. I mean, when you think of the game or the slate as a whole, the two people with the highest upside and the highest ceilings are Kawhi Leonard and the guy across from the ball, in which we'll get to. So I have to look at him at 10-3. It's a very fair price tag for a guy that even when his shot's not completely on, he's still getting you 50 DK points. So it's now 2 games in a row that he's struggled with his shot, and actually over the past 4 games, he's only hit 3 out of 15 3-pointers. So we're talking about this being almost like the floors of floor games for Kawhi Leonard. So I definitely have some interest at 10-3. Paul George coming off of a great shooting game, and it looks like he's putting a lot of that mental stuff behind him and the things that he was dealing with. Maybe it's because he turned his Twitter mentions off. That was one thing that he said. Another thing is he's talked to a therapist. Whatever he needed to do, it worked for him, because we're talking back-to-back good performances. I kind of feel like, I'm not going to say don't play him. He's still very much in play. It's a very fair price tag. Do I prefer him over Jaylen Brown is the main thing I'm looking at right now. And if it means I'm getting exposure and I don't have Kawhi Leonard in that lineup, then yeah, sure, why not? That's the kind of circumstance I'll play him in, is if, maybe it's a Jaylen Brown and a Paul George lineup. And something like that, because these are the two main key cogs, the main 2 guys. I want to have one of these guys, whether it's Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, in most of my lineups because of that game total.
Yeah, and I hear you with that one. Now it was my puppy barking out a little bit there. I mean, they're everywhere, but yeah, I think Kawhi Leonard is at 10-3. It's great price. Obviously, when the slate is full, he's not usually in the 10K range, but at this price, he's putting up 50 points regularly. And you mentioned it. He was really bad in that first half, even through the third quarter, most of the third quarter. Just his shot was off, and he still put up 53 points. He got 14 boards, 6 assists, 2 blocks, 1 with a finger.
Yeah.
He only hit 1 of 6 from 3. He's 1 of 9 in his last 2 games shooting from 3. So his shot hasn't been off. He put 13 of 36 from the field the last 2 games. His shot hasn't been there, and he's still averaging 59 DK points or 49 DK points. So he's pretty much almost at 5x value, and he's not hitting shots. He's not going to continue to miss shots at this rate. Eventually, he's going to hit them. And when he does, and if he's still producing around the board as he could be, he could pop off for 70. And you mentioned it, there's only 2 people who have the upside to do that in this game, or mainly 2 people, until Jamal Murray's playing against Utah. But I mean, I really like him, and I want him in pretty much all my lineups. And like you said, I'm not actively going at Paul George, but if I don't have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George makes great sense. He's been playing well, and I want exposure to at least one of them. I'm definitely going to try and get Kawhi in pretty much all of them. But if there's money match is not working and I can get a mix and match a couple different lineups, then yeah, I'll go George. But I think it's a little the gap between them to me is pretty big.
Yeah, and it's those circumstances where maybe you're doing a 3-entry max tournament. 2 of them have Kawhi Leonard, 1 of them might have Paul George. For every 2 lineups or 3 lineups I have Leonard, I'll play George in 1. In that kind of circumstance where one of these guys I'm expecting to have a big game, and I'll steal your thunder. I'll just immediately slide into some of the next plays I'm looking at.
Go ahead, bud.
And one of those forwards I think that we'll probably both have some interest in. It's going to be Marcus Morris. For every reason I should dislike him for all that Luka damage that he put in there, my boy. 5,100 still a very, very fair price tag for a guy that's playing mid-30s minutes. So at small forward and power forward eligibility, he's a guy that I could slot in there and make work in many ways, shapes, or form. And I will be playing some Marcus Morris, and probably not going to be going to the well as far as the center bunch between Zubac and Harrell. It's pretty much a crapshoot at this point, and they're both underwhelming and nights as well. It's not like one of these guys is hitting value every single night for us. So it's really hard to go there. Harrell looks like he is lost, man. He looks rough. And excluding just that Michael Porter Jr. dunk that completely just posterized him. And if you saw, they zoomed in on Kawhi Leonard's face. It was even like that was brutal.
Yeah, it was a bad one. I'm with you though. Hero for some reason he hasn't been getting the minutes in this playoffs, and his production screams, I shouldn't be getting this minutes. You're making the right call because he hasn't been playing great. He had a couple pretty good games. One 37-point game out there. He had a double-double, but that's when they won. They beat the Mavs by a football field. It wasn't even a game, and that was the only game that he really did good in. Zubats. He's played 30 minutes twice in the playoffs, and he's not seeing even 25 minutes in this series yet. That kind of workload. I know he fouled out last game, and he went on a roll too right when he fouled out, which was unfortunate. But if you can't see even 25 minutes at almost 5K, I can't possibly play you. As far as like a Javonte I almost said the Javonte Green. Michael Green, I'm getting everybody mixed up. I'm not really actively looking at him. I do like my Marcus Morris though. That's a pretty good play, and he is seeing the run. So that's something that you want under 5K. That's not bad. I'm not really going for Lou Williams. He has his hit or miss games, and I just did want to touch on. I'm not touching Patrick Beverley, 3,600. I mean, actually, he may be at 3,600.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got a little interest in him.
I just don't think he's good at basketball.
And, I know your take on this.
I just think all he does is run around, scream, and gets on camera time like he's on reality TV. He's really not good at basketball. But I guess at 3,600, it's pretty easy for him to beat value. He just has to be on the court.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's another guy. He's taking. Why is everyone got to take shots at my boy Luka? Dude's not even in the bubble anymore. They're taking shots. He's taking shots at him, saying he's like the Skip Bayless of basketball players. He tries to talk crap to every good basketball player, so he gets headlines and people think he plays defense. Well, it works, man. He was in that line for it. So but the low price tag, and that's the thing. I'm going with two types of builds. If there's one stud I prefer on the slate, we talked about the two upside guys. I prefer Kawhi Leonard over Jokic, but I am going to do lineups where I have both of those guys in there, and it's going to be tough to do. In those circumstances, we're going to have to cut some people out, whether it's one of those Toronto guards or one of those, maybe it's Jaylen Brown that's not making the cut in my lineup, whoever it might be. But I'm going to find a way to get both those guys in there, and Beverly might be a way to kind of make that a little easier. Played 20 minutes in that last one. He's been on a minutes restriction. I expect him to still be on a minutes restriction, but it might get bumped up from 20 to 24, 25, and at that point, decent value at that price tag. I wouldn't mind looking there.
Yeah, and I always say there's not many people that especially on 2-game slates that you can find under 4K that could play it if you're going for the big guys. Like I mentioned, Bobby Boucher might be playing. I love calling him that. Might be playing 15, 20 minutes. Then you got other people like that. Maybe Marc Gasol at 41. If Ibaka doesn't play, those two guys are in play. But, I mean, Beverly should see 20 to 25 minutes at 36. And that's you can't really find – you can't guarantee yourself that under 4K. And anywhere else on this slate. So, unfortunately, I don't like him as a player, but DFS, he's going to make my lineup because of it. All right, buddy. It looks like that's we covered all we needed to cover on the Clippers there. Let's go to the Nuggets. I mentioned earlier Barton and Kinkar aren't playing. They won't be making it back in time. Let's jump onto the top two guys here and see who you like, and then see who you like for value. You mentioned Jokic already. He's at 9,900 and Murray's at 8,600. Any interest in both? I know you already gave a little bit on Jokic, but are you actively playing him in most of your lineups?
Well, yeah, I definitely want to have a lot of Jokic. Ideally, I'm going to have some lineups with Jokic and Kawhi. If I prefer one, like I said, it's going to be Kawhi, probably slightly over Jokic, not by much though. It's very, very close. I won't have a lot of Murray. That price tag until he gets back down to low eights. I'm not touching that. So. For me, my expensive guy on this team is going to be Jokic over Murray. But, I've mentioned several times the 5K forward, that range is somewhere where I want to be. And this team has, 3 guys that we could possibly look at for some value at forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to play Murray in this matchup. I just think they have way too many people that they could throw at him and that could stop him. This is a very tough matchup for him. They have Paul George. They can throw Beverly to be annoying for 2 minutes. Kawhi Leonard can guard him. There's a lot of different people that they throw at him and different looks that you can see. It's very difficult, and especially at 8,600, I'm okay with that. As far as Jokic, I love Jokic in this matchup. He's been awesome, and he can be. He's been Zubac's too slow for him, and Harrell's just not playing good at all. So he is in prime spot right now. He's put up 60 the last 2 games. First game was just a massacre, and they were tired after a grueling 7-game series where they came back. So I'll give him that leeway, but he's pretty much putting up 60 points, and I love it. But as like you said, I think Kawhi has the bigger upside in this, so I'm going to go the extra 400 for that. With that said, though, center options here, if we're going positional eligibility, I think Jokic gets the slight edge there because he is center eligible.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're not, there's going to be lineups where I'm not playing Jokic. Like I said, I didn't get exposure to some of these other, 7 to 8K guys that we talked about. And those might be the lineups where I'm running Marc Gasol. There might be circumstances where I have both of them. I keep my player pool open and I mix and match with a lot of the same guys, and just, obviously you want your lineups to correlate. So you're not going to be, mixing and matching to the point where, you're playing, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and then you're getting maybe Kyle Lowry and Van Vliet. If you're playing, both of those top tier guys on the Clippers, odds are you're going to have some good exposure to some Denver guys and hope that game stays close. So it's all about on how you're correlating. But yes, I will have mostly either Jokic or Gasol at center.
Nice. And I'll ask you this question after, right before we go, but let's get into the other guys first. I'll ask you that and part of another question. Is there anybody else on this team that you like for value? I myself like that next guy that up, but you can hit them first.
So yeah, I touched on the forwards. Michael Porter Jr. coming off of a monster game, shot very well from the field, took 17 shot attempts, which, that's 2 games in a row where we're seeing double-digit shot attempts. So he is risky. You could see those minutes limited, but they need some scoring action, especially because Murray's not the guy that he was over there in Utah. Surprise. We're all shocked that he's not all of a sudden taking 31 shot attempts and hitting 50 points a game. So they're gonna need Michael Porter Jr. off the bench. So I have more interest in him in tournaments than I do cash games. Jeremy Grant just continues to play a boatload of minutes, and volume shot attempts, 14 in that last one. I wouldn't expect that. He's probably more of the cash game guy as opposed to Michael Porter Jr. being the tournament guy. And then I even have some interest in Millsap. If he's going to, this matchup is better for him. It's back-to-back games where he's played at least 28 minutes, 4,700. The ceiling's not all that high. It's probably right around 30 DK points. But they all three make a lot of sense to me. If I had to, list them in the order of the guys I'll have exposure to, I'll probably be Millsap, Porter Jr., then Grant. And then, you're going to touch on him probably anyway. And Gary Harris, I think, is an excellent value play. He's not a forward. He is that shooting guard play. He'll probably be a chalky one, but his minutes are back up to where we need to see him. Played 35 on that last one, dropped 28 DK points. So I like a lot of Nuggets, needless to say.
Yeah, I like Gary Harris as well, and Porter Jr. is my favorite of the 4, probably then followed by Gary Harris. I'm really not high on Jerami Grant. I would rather just play 300 extra and
Did
play
you really
Tice.
call him Jerami?
Yeah, that's his name.
It's Jeremy, dude.
Jerami.
Come on, man.
It's Jerami Grant, man. I'd rather play Tice for an extra.
If anybody that's listening, if you haven't, I know I've mentioned this 17 times already, but if you haven't seen that Key and Peele sketch, please go on YouTube, look up Key and Peele substitute teacher sketch, and then just tell me that's not the first thing you think of every time you hear Santino on a podcast.
It is Jerami. I'm going to have to Google it. I'm going to have to go to Basketball Reference and then just make sure it's Jerami. It's probably Jeremy, but who cares? Jerami. I'm giving him or Jeremy.
Yeah, you're giving him recognition. So the guy out there named Jerami, not the guy that, spent his life dedicated to a craft in a sport that worked his way up to an elite level, who's worth mentioning on the podcast. The random guy, Jerami.
Well, I prefer Tice for an extra 300 than Grant. I'll just say
Thanks.
Grant.
Jay Grant, we'll take it.
But I don't mind Paul Millsap at 48. That's not bad. It all depends on who I have in my power forward spot. But I do like Gary Harris for 200 extra. I just think his minutes are back. He's looking better now that he has games under his belt and whatnot. I just think he's a pretty better value. And Porter Jr., they need him to score in this. They need another person to take some shots and another person to score. And when he was scoring, they were playing really well. So I think he should see more than 23 minutes. And hopefully this game could stay close. But we know, I mentioned, I'm just not on the Murray bandwagon right now. He's getting so much. There's too many people capable of guarding Murray, and a lot of the attention is going to him, that it funnels some usage and better shots and easier offense to Michael Porter Jr. in this matchup.
Yeah, and he's their instant offense guy off the bench. Before earlier in the series when we saw him kind of taking a back seat to that approach, they were trying to get guys like Monte Morris involved, and Gary Harris was working his way back up, but it's a different situation as though when he was lighting up the scoreboard because they were just throwing him in there and playing 34 minutes. They're giving him opportunity against the second unit. When maybe when Kawhi's getting spelled or George is getting spelled and he is having an easier time to get his buckets necessarily, then we'd rather have that than have him thrown in that starting lineup and have him going against these guys. So I definitely have some interest in him. I'm not going to pretend the volatility is not involved. I don't think he's going to come out here and how many minutes are you expecting? I kind of think right around that 20, 23, 24 would be his max. I don't know if he's going to go out there and play 30 plus again, but the double-digit shot attempts I think are fully in the realm of possibility, and that's something like I'm with you. They're going to need him.
I think he's going to play 25, 30. I think they need him to do that. So I'm more on the.
He's playing that.
Yeah, I'm on the more of the up where he's going to play more minutes than he has been playing. But obviously, like you said, D is volatile. He might just play 18 and take 7 shots. So he does come with some risk. He's not he wouldn't be 5,200 if he didn't come with risk. But I see I think I see more Michael Porter Jr. on the court this next game because they really do need him.
All right, I'm with you. If he's playing that amount of minutes, sign me up.
Nice. And yeah, I had two questions before we head on out of here. First one, you said you were going to play a lot of Jokic and Gasol. What happens if Ibaka plays? Does that mean you don't really have many center options in your pool, or are you getting rid of? Is Gasol still a guy to think about, or is he just kind of on the back burner on this one?
He's definitely still a guy I'm going to think about. I'll definitely lower my ownership and my exposure to him if Ibaka does play. I will still have slight. This because, like I said, I don't think Ibaka is going to move the way he's going to want to. I think if he suits up, it's going to be a game time decision. It's going to be something that he's testing out prior to warm-ups and everything. Ankle injuries, everybody suffered them if you played sports growing up, and they're not, something that generally gets better the day after, right away. The swelling goes up, things get tougher. Once you take your shoe off, and after the game he said, I'm fine, but he's wearing a walking boot the next day, kind of goes to show that things do happen the following day that take a turn for the worse. So we'll have to monitor it, but I would lower my exposure into him. Jokic would probably be exposure would be increased for me. It just has to happen. Those are the two guys I feel the most confident in. These Clipper centers, those are the other guys I guess we're really looking at as options, and I just don't have confidence that either one of them has like GPP winning upside. Harrell's the one with that upside, and I just haven't seen enough of it to want to, go overboard on it, and he's not even at a cheap salary anymore.
Yeah, which is weird. He's playing poorly, and his salary is not cheap. All right, buddy. Before we get out, I want to ask you one question. Who's the guy? You asked me this last time. Is there a guy on this slate that you're not leaving any of your lineups without?
Ooh, stealing my thunder. Well,
borrowing.
Yeah. All right. Hey, listen. Great minds think alike, I guess. And you just don't have one, so you took mine. So, I will probably say if there's a guy that I'm definitely not leaving without, it's probably going to be Gary Harris, just for the value at 4,100. I think that's a very excellent value play. I think he's going to be chalky, but I'm not.
I believe.
Maybe am I looking at the wrong pricing? I have 41 over here on my DK, and that's keep in mind. I think we've had a listener kind of mention this, message me that the pricing does fluctuate. Let me refresh it. Maybe
I've seen that before too, and I remember I've been seeing that, and I said that in one of our podcasts too. I have been seeing that, especially when you go look at their history. I sometimes I'm like, hey, wait, he wasn't 7,800. He was only 74 or something weird like that. It's usually a couple hundred off, not astronomical, but I'm looking right now. I have 46, so that's very weird.
I'm refreshing on DK right now as we speak.
Let me refresh too. Did one of us just get the boot? You can't. If you're already throwing out if they're already making lineups and people signing up, you can't really change like that. So that's very weird.
I just refreshed, and yeah, now Gary Harris is saying 4,600. So that's pretty funny. I originally loaded this up at 8 p.m. and now it is saying 46. So it's still a great value in my opinion. And that is, it's not going to change a whole lot for me as far as the slate, as a whole. For the most part, everyone's exactly. It looks like your Santino, your pricing that you were going off, and I was wondering because you said a few, I think you said Millsap was 48, he was 47 a minute ago. Grant was 52, now he's 51. Porter Jr. was 5K, now he's 52. So yeah,
5K. I would have said he's
yeah, that's exactly kind of where I was at. So not a whole lot has changed for me. It's still going to be the same thing. I'll still have some good exposure to Gary Harris, but it definitely gives me some sour grapes a little bit. Morris went down a little bit. There we go. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So now I got to change my guy I can't leave, I guess, because I guess at 46 it makes it a little bit tougher just to lock him into just about every lineup. So with changing it, I'll probably just say Marcus Gasol on the caveat that we don't have what's his name playing, and then
no caveat.
then we'll lock in Jokic because I think Jokic is a fantastic play regardless. And if Ibaka does play, I'm going to have Jokic in a ton of lineups.
Nice. Yeah, I love Jokic too. And if I don't get Jokic in my lineup, the play that I'm not on that team, I'm going to be playing a lot of Michael Porter Jr. I guess that would be where I'm going. Gary Harris isn't bad either, as we both said, but I think the upside for an extra 600 to me is what?
Wish it was 41. It's just like I feel like I just got the carpet yanked out from underneath me.
Well, yeah. Now the only difference between the two is 600 in positions, but at that 600, I'm willing to take a chance on somebody who could, again, blow up for 40, 45. And if he's seeing 30 minutes, which I think he should be seeing, even more, so that I'm going to be playing a lot of him. It could backfire on me, but it's going to be hard to get Leonard and Jokic with getting a Lowry and stuff in there as well. So that's where I'm probably going to be leaning.
It's a good call. I mean, yours is a little bit better of a call. I just named one of the top guys on the slate. So, now I kind of feel like I should have said Gasol. Again, hey, listen, Gasol went down $300 since the last updated. So 4,100, he's a good play. I don't mind looking at him. So, hey, feel your need. Keep an eye on that Ibaka news. That's definitely the thing to monitor for this slate, and it's going to open up a lot of value for us if he does happen to get ruled out.
Awesome, man. And everybody remember to check out manscaped.com. I keep saying how good this lawnmower 3.0 is, and I don't know if I can continue to say it. You have to try it. Stop taking my word for it, take my word for it, I guess, and try this product. It's fantastic. You will not regret it. And also check out everything we're doing on Hoopball. Our website got revamped a few weeks back. Everything's up. We have new team podcasts, new podcasts going all over. The betting podcast, I mentioned my bookie earlier. Use the betting podcast, get some good bets to take, and go on over to my bookie. And then check out our Instagram, our Facebook. And whenever you can, wherever you listen to podcasts, give us a rate, review, a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you like about the show. If you don't like Mike, you can tell him anything about it. Just leave us a review. We love to hear that stuff. And and that's pretty much it, guys, for another edition of Hoopball DFS. Mike, you want to say anything before we head on out of here?
RIP to the Bucks, man. Just got bounced. As we were on air a minute ago. Game ended. So
yeah.
Well, wish Giannis the best in the next season and whatever team he's playing on.
Yeah, he's still going to be on the Bucks. I don't think they're going to trade him until he just decides he's not going to play. But yeah, we have the Heat versus someone, and the Heat they're very deep. They are just very deep, and I can't wait to see who they play in the next round because it's going to be a slugfest again. But again, this is another edition of Hoopball DFS today. I'm Santino Cocone. On behalf of myself and Mike Apotria, have a good night, guys, and good luck on your slates.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.